All right, deep divers, buckle up. We're plunging headfirst into the book of Coming Forth by Night.
And let me tell you, this isn't your typical ancient scroll.
Not even close. I mean, first of all, it claims to be from Set himself.
And not just like, oh, here are some stories about Set.
Right. Like, I, Set, am speaking directly to you.
Which is a huge deal in the world of esoteric texts. You see, you often get analysis, interpretations.
Commentaries.
Exactly. But this one's different. It's presented as a first-hand account, straight from the God's mouth.
Talk about making an entrance. And the tone is, well, let's just say it's not what you'd call subtle.
You're not exactly known for his bedside manner, is he?
Not at all. It's authoritative, commanding,
yeah,
even a little abrasive. Does this sound like how you'd picture a deity talking?
It definitely challenges our preconceived notions of divine speech.
You think? It's a far cry from those gentle, compassionate whispers we often imagine.
It's more like a thunderous declaration, a proclamation.
Exactly. And it's not just the tone that's attention-grabbing. Set doesn't waste any time before he starts. Well, shaking things up.
You could say that again. I mean, he basically dismisses all the other gods.
Oh, he more than dismisses them. He calls them created by men.
Which is fascinating on so many levels.
Tell me about it.
Because on the one hand, it positions Set as unique, existing outside the usual pantheon. He's not even playing on the same field.
He's playing a whole different game.
Precisely. But on the other hand, it also connects back to some of the older interpretations of Set.
You mean before he became the villain of the story?
Exactly. See, in earlier periods, Set represented chaos, yes, but a chaos that was vital for change, for renewal.
He wasn't just bad. He was force of nature.
Exactly. And this text seems to be tapping into that more nuanced understanding.
It's like he's reclaiming his narrative, setting the record straight.
In a very bold way, I might add.
Bold doesn't even begin to cover it. But there's something even bigger at play here. Because if we take Set's claims seriously, well, it kind of throws a wrench in the whole system, doesn't it?
It disrupts the established order, that's for sure.
Because if Set is saying those other gods are essentially man-made, what does that say about, well, everything?
It makes you question the origin of belief itself.
Right. It's like he's saying, hold on, folks, you've got it all wrong.
And that's a powerful statement to make.
No kidding. And trust me, he's just getting started. So Set's made it clear he's not exactly a team player. He's not one of the guys.
He's definitely not here to make friends and influence people.
More like shake things up and rewrite the rules.
Exactly.
And speaking of shaking things up, this is where things take a turn.
Because
Set decides to make a friend. Well, sort of.
Oh. And who might this friend be?
None other than Anton LaVey.
Now that's an interesting pairing.
You think?
It's like ancient Egypt meets 20th century rebellion.
Talk about a culture clash. But in all seriousness, for those who don't know, LaVey was kind of a big deal.
That's putting it mildly. He was the founder of the Church of Satan, after all.
Right, and I think it's important to clarify because, Church of Satan tends to conjure up certain images. But LaVey's philosophy was a bit more nuanced than that.
To put it mildly, see, LaVey wasn't about worshiping the devil, at least not in the traditional sense.
It was more about challenging norms, right?
Exactly. Rejecting dogma, embracing individualism, questioning everything.
The flair for the dramatic, I've heard.
Oh, absolutely. LaVey was a showman at heart.
So we've got this unexpected pairing, ancient Egyptian god, 20th century iconoclast, but it gets even weirder. Because the text claims that Set actually bestowed something called the Diabolicon upon LaVey.
Ah, yes, the Diabolicon.
Okay, so what is that exactly? I mean, it sounds ominous.
It's described as a source of immense power, a force capable of influencing humanity on a profound level.
And Set gave that to LaVey.
That's what the text claims, and it suggests that this Diabolicon was instrumental in LaVey's work, that it helped him challenge the status quo and, well, stir the pot, so to speak.
To say the least. But hold on, I'm picking up on something here. You said influence, not control.
Ah, you're catching on. And that's crucial because the text never frames the Diabolicon as inherently good or evil.
It's more like a tool.
Precisely. A force of nature, much like Set himself. It's potent, potentially dangerous, and ultimately neutral. It all depends on how it's wielded.
Okay, so we've got this powerful force, this Diabolicon, given to LaVey to help him shake things up.
To usher in a new era.
And speaking of new eras, this is where things get really interesting.
Because
Set decides it's time for a change. a big one.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
He ends his pact with LaVey.
He just cuts him off.
Essentially, it's like he's saying, all right, that's enough of that. Time for something new.
And what, pray tell, is this something new?
Well, that's where the concept of aeons comes in.
Ah, yes. Eons. Vast cycles of time, each marked by a particular energy, a dominant force.
It's a pretty heady concept.
It is, but it's also incredibly fascinating because it suggests that history isn't linear, it's cyclical.
So it's not just about progress.
Not necessarily. It's about growth, decline, transformation, death, and rebirth.
Instead, it's basically saying, hey, guess what? New eon's coming. Buckle up.
And every new eon needs a leader.
A new magus.
Precisely.
And this is where I want our listeners to really pay attention. Because the name this text gives is, well, let's just say it's unexpected.
You're really trying to build the suspense here.
Trust me, it's worth it. So, everyone listening, do yourselves a favor and Google Michael Aquino later.
Consider yourself warned.
Because that, my friends, is a rabbit hole for another day. So we've got this new eon, this new magus, but there's one more thing that Set seems really concerned about, and it's his image.
His branding, you could say.
Right, like he's launching a whole new era here, so naturally he wants to make sure he's putting his best foot, or should I say hoof, forward.
Exactly. And for Set, a big part of that image is his symbol, the pentagram.
Which he has very strong opinions about, by the way.
Oh, absolutely. Because symbols, especially in esoteric traditions, are far more than just pretty pictures.
Yeah, like power symbols, right?
Exactly. They carry deep layers of meaning, often changing and evolving over time.
Which is kind of what Set's getting at here, isn't it? He's not just choosing a symbol, he's reclaiming it.
Redefining it.
Right. Because he specifically says he wants to distance the pentagram from its associations with the Church of Satan.
He sees those associations as a corruption, a misinterpretation of its true meaning.
And he's not shy about correcting the record.
Not at all. He gives incredibly specific instructions about how this correct pentagram should look. The points, the proportions, the orientation.
It's all very detailed. Like he's really thought this through.
And that level of detail speaks to the power of imagery, wouldn't you say?
Totally. It's about controlling the narrative.
Exactly. By dictating the precise design of the pentagram, Set is shaping how he's perceived. It's about image control.
Divine branding, basically.
Precisely. But it's not just about appearances, is it?
Definitely not. This text is also a call to action.
Oh, absolutely. Set directly addresses potential followers, outlining the qualities he seeks.
And he's not exactly looking for casual acquaintances.
Not at all. He's looking for dedication, for unwavering loyalty.
And a willingness to embrace chaos.
Of course. Because remember, chaos is where Set thrives.
Right. But he also seems to be offering something in return.
And what's that?
Survival. He talks about a coming storm, a great upheaval.
Ah, yes, the classic apocalyptic language. It's a common theme in esoteric traditions.
Right. But what's interesting here is that Set isn't just predicting doom and gloom.
He's offering a way out.
Exactly. He's saying, join me, and together we'll weather the storm.
It's a powerful message, especially for those who feel disillusioned or disenfranchised.
Totally. But there's another layer to this, isn't there? Something about the relationship Set is trying to cultivate with his followers.
Absolutely. He talks about communicating with him directly, about speaking to him not as a distant deity, but as a friend, a confidant.
Wow. So it's not just about blind obedience.
Not at all. It's about a shared purpose, a personal connection. He wants active participants, not passive followers.
Which is a surprisingly modern approach, wouldn't you say? Especially coming from an ancient Egyptian god.
It's definitely unexpected, but it also speaks to the enduring appeal of Set. He's a complex figure full of contradictions, but ultimately he represents a force for change. And that's something that resonates with people across cultures and throughout history.
Well said. And on that note, deep divers, I think it's time for us to surface.
But before we go, let's leave our listeners with one final thought.
Because that's what we do here. We explore, we question, we dive deep. But ultimately, it's up to each of you to decide what it all means.
Exactly. So as you continue to explore the Book of Coming Forth by Night, ask yourselves this. Is this a genuine communication from an ancient force? A cleverly crafted piece of modern esoteric writing? Or perhaps a bit of both?
The answers, my friends, are out there. Happy diving.